First, I'd just like to thank the shrine keepers for this beautiful red shrine. We're getting shrines every week, new colours and things. So thank you, Sarah, I believe. And thank you, Lou, as well, and Janet, who's also do shrines. So we're continuing our theme, as always. We're always continuing the theme. Well, we're not actually, sometimes we're starting a new one, but we're continuing our theme of wheel, spiral, and goal. So very briefly, we started off looking at the wheel, this kind of symbol of the wheel of life, which, and the kind of looking at the different realms that we can inhabit through our states of mind, and particularly the kind of reactive cycles that we can be in that kind of take us around these different realms of existence. And then we moved on to looking at the spiral. So seeing that we don't have to just react, we can act creatively with our mind. We can be in the gap, and we can transform ourselves into new ways of being that we perhaps couldn't conceive of before. And now in this last stage of this theme, we're looking at the goal, what we're calling the goal. So what it is that's all leading towards, what is this thing that we call enlightenment. And so we're looking at different images and ways of approaching this. And I wanted to start by saying something just about this word goal, because since that is the theme, the goal. So what can be helpful about this? It's a metaphor. It can give a sense of, there's something we can move towards, something that's beyond us, something that can motivate and inspire us. But really importantly, it's not a goal in the usual sense. It's not like a personal achievement or a kind of career, spiritual life goal or something. That's really not what we're talking about. Enlightenment is so much more than anything kind of personal in that sort of way. It concerns actually all of us and all of life. And we'll be kind of exploring this more fully when we look at, in a few weeks, when we look at Sangha as goal even. But I wanted to mention this now just to kind of sort of guard against language and also as a way into this realm of images. And show why images can be really helpful, because it's difficult to talk about enlightenment and using that word without it becoming something that our kind of ego either tries to appropriate or tries to say, no, that's impossible, that's way beyond me, it's got nothing to do with me. Myself, I'm more prone to trying to give me that sounds great. But images, they can give us a way of contemplating that which is actually far, far beyond us, which is completely mysterious, even unknown to us perhaps. They can give us a way to contemplate that, but also to allow that to feed into our everyday life and to influence how we live right here and now. So that's one of the power of images. And it can help inform us how we live our lives, as I was saying, and show us how to emulate the Buddha. Because I think that's a really good way of thinking about these images. They seem a bit alien, a bit weird. What is this teaching us about how we can live more like the Buddha, practicing to be more like the Buddha so we can become more like the Buddha? As we say in the intro course, the 5 precepts, they're ways of kind of behaving as if we are enlightened, we're pretending, we're practicing, so we can become more like the Buddha, rather than necessarily thinking in terms of trying to kind of reach and get to a goal. We can dwell on these images and think, oh, how is this informing how I live my life now? How is this helping me to practice and kind of live a fully human life? And the mantra of the 5 Buddhas, so that's the kind of realm that we're looking at here. This is the particular framework that we're looking at enlightenment at the moment, these images of enlightenment, this sort of image which we'll conjure up in our imaginations because we don't have any special projections tonight, but this image of these sort of 5 different Buddhas. And these aren't historical figures, just to be clear. They're not kind of literally real existing enlightened beings. They're what we call archetypal images. I've not actually looked up a definition of that, but we might say they're kind of images that they don't need to literally exist, but they give us a sort of sense of something quite mythic, even a sense of perfection, but in a way that's kind of outside of history, so we don't have to sort of be worried too much about it being kind of too perfect or unattainable. They give us a way of contemplating something which is really kind of perfect and beyond us, you might say. And this mantra of the 5 Buddhas is a very rich form of this. It is these 5 different Buddhas, different colours, different mudras, different animals, different elements. It's all kind of quite fun if you're into that kind of thing. They sort of form this kind of cross-like figure. So there's this kind of vertical axis, which kind of represents the inner dimension of the Buddha's experience, the enlightenment. It's the inner dimension, wisdom and compassion. And there's this other axis, this sort of horizontal axis with these other 2 Buddhas that represent the kind of action aspect, which we were exploring a bit last week. So in a couple of weeks, we're going to be looking at the blue Buddha, Akshobhya, who kind of sits on the bottom. He's the Buddha of wisdom, of clear seeing, and clear knowing. But today, we're going to be looking at the complement of that. The complement of that kind of cool, clear seeing wisdom aspect is the radiant, warm love of Amitabha. the red Buddha of love and metta. We did actually have it all worked out to be really nice and neat, that we'd look at these two aspects consecutively, but then COVID happened and Pawanita's unwell, so yeah, we've kind of had to mix it up a bit, so apologies about that. Yeah, good. So, let's go meet Amitabha. So, in our imaginations, so we're floating above a beautiful, great ocean, a very calm ocean, peaceful, inviting. Perhaps you can hear the gentle waves, We gaze out to the west and we see that the sun is setting. Beautiful, deep but soft red, which we can gaze directly at but doesn't blind us, it doesn't hurt our eyes, that beautiful red setting sun. We see the reflections across the water. And then on the water, this emerges this red lotus, ruby red lotus. And seated upon this lotus is Amitabha Buddha. Amitabha, whose name means infinite light. So he's the Buddha of love and compassion, of emotional warmth and infinite metta, rich ruby red, seated in meditation, with his hands resting in his lap, thumbs gently touching in the mudra of meditation. His eyes are half open, gazing towards us with a smile, unfathomable peace and boundless compassion. And his red body radiates the warmth and compassion of all the Buddhas. So there's Amitabha. And I'm going to be dwelling on different aspects of his symbolism, but also a bit on the life of the Buddha to draw out his qualities. So to begin with, red. So red. I could just keep saying red. But, so colour. It's such a kind of, it can be such a kind of deep symbolic thing, a very mysterious thing. It's interesting to notice when we're drawn to colours and to wonder why that might be. And probably won't have an answer, but we are drawn to things for a reason. So what might we say about red? Well, red communicates warmth, emotion, love, fire, even danger, danger and stop. Also passion, lust, and dare I say it, sexual desire. But you'd be pleased to hear that, or maybe displeased actually, that Amitabha is not the Buddha of sexual desire. But he does have something to say about it, and we'll hear more about that later. There's a lot of associations with this colour red, but particularly for Amitabha, I think red can really communicate this emotional warmth, love, positivity, metta. And yeah, I really love red. There's times when I go through red phases, I think, I notice, oh yeah, give me more red. It does have something like fascinating, I think, about really activating. It kind of is the colour of fascination, I think, and sort of rite of fascination. Also kind of aliveness, like energy, life, kind of, it's the colour of blood, like full-blooded. And he's said to be made of light, so his body is not just red, it's actually red light. And this draws on his name, some infinite light. This red light is actually infinite. And I think there's something quite symbolic about this in his relationship to metta. So metta is said to be immeasurable and infinite in potential. So it said that there's no end to how much we can cultivate metta and bring it forth into the world. So it comes from, as it were, sort of inexhaustible source. There's no limit to how strong metta can be. And light traverses great distance, galaxies, stars, it travels great distance, very, very fast, in a flash, literally. And like, we can say the same with metta. There's no limit to how far metta can reach and how fast it can traverse distances. And this can work, I think, in quite mysterious and unfathomable ways, even kind of magic. And I sort of mean that almost sort of literally. I've heard lots of stories, very strange and interesting stories about kind of people bringing each other to mind with warmth, and it's sort of, they know and they confirm it afterwards. It's really strange, but quite amazing, I think. So I think, in thinking of metta as infinite light, it's as though we can imagine it as more like a force in the world. So that a force we can even unleash into the world. It's far more than just a kind of state of mind or something going on just inside of us. So like metta is far more than just improving our relations with each other, as really wonderful and amazing as that is, I do think it's also a force in the world. It's a kind of light that we can unleash into the world. And yeah, the Buddha in the Dhammapada, he says, not by hatred can hatred ever be pacified here in the world. It is pacified by love. This is the eternal law. So, think about all the hatred in the world, saying actually it's only love that can pacify that, only metta, loving kindness. There sort of is no other way. Love is the answer, my friends. More powerful than we think, perhaps, probably far more powerful than we think, but not obvious, not always obviously so. And importantly, I think with the sort of myth and kind of symbolism of Amitabha, it's kind of inviting us to consider, perhaps we ourselves, we don't need to generate love. We don't need to kind of create love. In fact, we can't really. It's not ours. We don't possess it. We can't consume it. It's sort of always available in potential. Our job is just to clean and remove the obscurations of our heart and mind so that metta, compassion, can really just flow through quite naturally and spontaneously into our lives and into the lives of others. So I'm going to be telling some stories soon, and these stories are to illustrate something of the nature of what love really is. And just say I'm using this word love on purpose, because we say in the intro course, don't we, that we don't use this word love, we use the word metta, because love can mean all kinds of different things, which is really true. But I don't know, love, it's such a good, I think it carries so much energy, particularly like this colour red. So I'll be kind of interchanging with all these words, love, compassion, metta, and such like. But really we mean metta, we mean this kind of unconditional sort of well-wishing for other beings and ourselves. But it is, there are lots of some kind of misunderstandings, easy misunderstandings we can fall into by using these words love, particularly I think words like love and compassion. So one is it can become sentimental, so we can think we love love, I'm loving, oh yeah, we're also loving, isn't it great? Love is the answer, woo, it's sort of, I don't know if you do that. I don't know if I do that, to be honest, but that's what I'm imagining in my mind. It's sort of like, it's kind of like a sort of liking the idea of being loving and compassionate, but not necessarily doing anything, not necessarily really acting, not actually stepping out and taking that kind of courageous step to get involved in people's lives, to really try and act and make a difference. Or perhaps we go the other way. We might overemphasize the active dimension and think that compassion is just about doing a lot, getting results done, even really, quite good stuff, but still just about results. And we kind of, and undervaluing the intention, the sort of state of mind. Are we really, the state of heart and mind that we're bringing to that? And perhaps even neglecting ourselves in the process, kind of being a martyr, thinking we need to sort of keep pushing and helping and serving in a way that sort of we think we don't matter and how we're doing it doesn't matter. And that's also, you might say, that kind of the other, that's not what we're talking about here when we're talking about love and metta and compassion. So to explore this, the first story is the story of the Buddha's vision of the lotus pond. So this is shortly after the Buddha's enlightenment. So after the Buddha attained enlightenment, it's said that he sat on, like kind of we do that, don't we, in meditation, we sit on, but he sat on for 7 weeks and just blissing out, it sounds like, and kind of, it said he was just appreciating, enjoying and delighting in the bliss of liberation. And I think as well, like really assimilating the whole thing is such a big change and experience, is kind of assimilating, letting it really permeate through him. After 7 weeks, he started turning his mind towards communicating this, teaching it, sharing it with others. And there's a kind of longer version, which I won't go into the whole version of, where he's kind of wondering whether to teach or not. But the kind of climax of this is he has this vision. He's kind of wondering, how can I teach? Will people understand? Will people really be able to experience what I've experienced? And he has this vision of all of humanity like being lotuses in this great swamp, mud-filled thing, pit, I was going to say, but a great swamp with these lotuses growing out of it. And all in different stages of development, some, kind of right at the bottom, some poking up still through the mud, some just sticking out, some finally getting out into the air and towards the sun, and eventually these other lotuses opening right out into the light of the sun and the sky. And he saw this vision of all humanity as being like growing beings. And it said that he trembled with compassion. There's this word that he uses, anukampa, which means to tremble with. So he saw like this kind of deep resonance with the life of humanity and all these beings trying to rise up, trying to grow. And he trembled with it. He shook with this compassion and desire to do, this sense of, I imagine anyway, it's like I can help, I can communicate, I can help these beings to grow. So he felt this boundless and immeasurable compassion for humanity. He declared, "Open wide are the doors of the deathless," and he went out into the world to teach the Dharma. And he did that for the remaining 40 years of his life. So Amitabha, he's particularly associated with the lotus. This is a particular symbol of his. He's said to be in the lotus family. And, he's seated on a red lotus, but he's also, sometimes he's depicted as actually holding a lotus. Sometimes he's holding up a red lotus, like an offering or like an invitation either, like, will you take up the lotus? And the lotus is sort of, it has all kinds of symbolism. I mean, we like flowers, any flower really, but the lotus is the sense of unfolding growth, sort of gradual, progressive, kind of rising up and opening. In quite contrast to the Vajra, which is a symbol we'll be looking at in a couple of weeks, Akshobhya's Vajra, which is like breakthrough. It's the diamond thunderbolt. It breaks through, it smashes, sudden penetration, whereas the lotus is more this kind of gradual, slow unfoldment, but very powerful, very potent. So he saw this vision of all beings being like growing lotuses. He said with his Buddha eye. So this isn't just a fantasy or a kind of thing he just thought up as a nice metaphor. He said he saw all life as being growing with his Buddha eye. So this is quite mysterious in a way, but it's kind of saying as if, with his highest faculty, his highest perception, saw all life as growing. Like he saw that actually the true nature of humanity, our sort of truest and kind of highest vision is that we're all trying to grow. That's kind of, as it were, what we all long for. So life is fundamentally about growth and the urge to grow. So not about mastering the material world, not even primarily, operative word here being primarily, about kind of solving world problems, about just trying to make everything kind of better. Of course, the altruistic desire to benefit others is absolutely inseparable from true growth. But he saw that to be a human being is to be a growing being. This isn't something we add on to ourselves. It's not something we need to kind of create. It's sort of innate and fundamental to what it means to be alive. And I think if we deny this urge within ourselves or within others, we suffer and others suffer, and it doesn't go away lightly. It can take, I think it's like, Dr. Ambedkar and Sangha Night, I think as well, sort of kind of pointed out this kind of, it's like I should say who Dr. Ambedkar is, this kind of a great figure in Indian Buddhism, but he saw that like if you deny people their sort of the ability to grow, it doesn't go well. It becomes destructive. It can become violent even, hatred or addiction, depression. And I kind of more and more, I've been noticing sort of when I'm doing the Metta Bhavana, the first stage, Metta for myself, trying to have this sense of like kind of unleashing myself, seeing how kind of a lot of my fears and anxieties, they're sort of trying to keep myself down. They're trying to keep myself safe, but kind of confined, and feeling the suffering of that. That's painful. It's painful to like not let ourselves flourish, to not let ourselves be kind of great even, or to like go beyond our present state. Also kind of just to wonder, to look up, to become more. So the Buddha trembles with this urge to grow, this kind of primal life force within us, and passionately desires to activate that within us. But another way to look at this, because that might seem a bit abstract, but it's just to connect it with our kind of basic desire for happiness and to not suffer. So in the Metta Bhavana, of course, we say, may you be well, may you be happy. We also say, may you progress, which I think connects with that kind of the growth aspect. We might say is in this vision of the lotus point, it's saying that we all deeply, we want to be happy, we don't want to suffer. But this vision, I think, is kind of communicating that that is inseparable from this urge to grow. That maybe they're one and the same desire, part of the same life force even. And it's our state of our heart and the state of our mind that ultimately creates our joys and sorrows. That's the kind of the real place of where true happiness and satisfaction comes from within. Happiness comes from within, not from what happens to us, fundamentally. So Amitabha, this love and the Buddha's love, I don't think it's just, you might say, it's not just wishing that others experience happiness, but that they become happiness, that we become happiness. We become beings whose hearts and minds are states of happiness. States of love, ultimately, states of metta. It's kind of paradoxical, I think, but it seems like kind of the greatest wish that we can wish others, like what metta really wishes is that others are metta, that others become metta, experience metta. Sort of quite circular, but it sort of doesn't make sense and makes complete sense at the same time. Like love is the greatest joy, experiencing love, to express love, to receive love. I really feel like there's the key to existence is there somewhere. And this vision, this compassion of the Buddha, this trembling with all of life and seeing beings as growing beings and desiring them to activate their fullest potential, desiring them to be truly and deeply happy. This vision arose from deep meditation, so the Buddha's deep meditation. So Amitabha, he's in this mudra of meditation, so his hands are like this, thumbs connecting. It's said to be the dhyana mudra, the mudra of dhyana, the mudra of meditation. And I find this really interesting. So here we have the Buddha of love, the Buddha of compassion, and he's meditating, and he's in the meditation mudra. He's not in the sort of fearless action mudra, he's not in the generosity mudra even, which we'll hear about later. He's in the meditation mudra. It's very interesting. And I think something that I wonder whether this is communicating is, or pointing out, is that the barriers to metta, the barriers to love go very, very deep. Go very deep. It goes right to our core delusions about our sense of who we think we are and what we think the nature of existence is. We're deeply there's these deep barriers to love, these deep kind of core delusions that want to keep everything safe, protective, kind of narrow, and don't want to expand, don't want to reach out and to kind of fulfill our highest potential in terms of in love. So I think, Amitabha's meditation mudra is showing us that the quest for love, if you like, or the quest for even world peace, can't be separated from the inner quest, can't be separated from, it can't exclude the dimension of individuals actually going deep within themselves, taking full responsibility for our own mind, for our deep views, our deeply held, unquestioned a lot of the time views that we're often not aware of. Perhaps that dimension is even integral to that quest. And not that external action isn't really important, so like ethics is fundamental, it's the fundamental, in many ways it's more fundamental than meditation. And, I love meditation, but ethics, the way we live, and our actions so helpful, and the willingness just to respond practically to the needs of others is, I think, fundamental to any meaningful human life. But perhaps Amitabha, with this mudra of meditation, the Buddha of love in meditation, is challenging us to take a real honest look at ourselves and in others and life, and to see, where is hatred and greed and suffering really coming from? What is the real source of suffering? Where is it really coming from, and where's the ultimate solution? At the very least, I think he's encouraging us to meditate and to take up meditation. So, particularly the metta bhavana. So, and I think, I find it quite inspiring to think of, perhaps, regular meditation, we could think of that as being part of a commitment to creating a more loving world, and at least a more loving self, and, at least a more loving world around in our vicinity. So I'd heartily recommend that you go on retreats. This is something I wanted to say. So any retreat really, but particularly if you can, a longer retreat, or even a meditation retreat. It's a regular experience for me. I go on retreat, I don't realize just how kind of deluded I am till I go on retreat and these things just start happening, and wow, it's like this, it's like that, oh, it's not like this. What was I doing? It's kind of, and it's so easy to forget that we're like that. We follow our kind of habitual roots and patterns. Going on retreat is such a really amazing, powerful way of kind of realizing what we didn't realize we needed to realize. So the next story. So this is the story of Kisa Gautami. And this is a story, I think, that illustrates the Buddha's vision of beings being like lotuses and kind of activating the growth in others in a very kind of practical way. And this is my kind of just a brief rendering of the story. There's a fuller version, so this is my kind of rendering. So Kisa Gautami lived during the Buddha's day. She was a woman, and she had a child. And this child changed her life completely. You get a sense it kind of gave her life purpose and meaning. She's absolutely delighted that she could have this child, and it changed her life. But while it was very young, when it was still a baby even, it died. So she lost her baby. I can't even comprehend what that's like. I'm not a father, I'm not a mother. But you can imagine it sounds like this, she experienced a kind of intolerable grief and disbelief, could not accept it, couldn't believe that this could have happened. So she walks around saying to people, can you heal my baby? Can you, she wasn't saying, can you bring it back to life? She just couldn't accept that it died. Can you do something for me, please? Can anyone help me? And eventually someone says, the Buddha's nearby. You can go see the Buddha, see if he can help. So she goes to see the Buddha and says, can you help? Can you help? And the Buddha, I think, looks at her with, I can imagine almost like with tears in his eyes, maybe if not literally, at least metaphorically, and said yes, I can help you. What you need to do is you need to bring to me a mustard seed, just one mustard seed, but from a house where nobody has died. So she thinks, amazing, fantastic. She goes off, knocking door to door, asking all these people the same question, can you give me a mustard seed? But then also, has anyone died here? And time after time, they said something like, yes, I can give you mustard seed, but do not remind me of my grief. Do not remind me. The dead are many, but the living are few. Every house, somebody had died. And eventually, something happened. She realized something. She realized that her grief was not just hers. And she was able to finally accept that her baby had died and to grieve properly and to lay her baby to rest. And then she returned to the Buddha, sat on her knees, kneeled, and said something like, the mustard seeds have done their work. And then it said she became a disciple of the Buddha and eventually became enlightened. So in this story, the Buddha sees what Kisa Gautami really needs. So he sees a very particular situation and responds accordingly with deep loving sympathy and a kind of profound awareness even. So the Buddha responded in so many different ways, and you can see this as a kind of a dimension of love, of metta, these different ranges of responses. So sometimes he'd give teachings, sometimes advice, sometimes just a friendly exchange, sometimes just very direct practical help. But on this occasion, he gives her not even a teaching, he doesn't give her a lesson, and he doesn't try to make her feel better. He sees Kisa Gautami and sees that she's deeply grieving, deeply suffering, and knows why. He can see why, what the root cause of that suffering is. In her heart, she's not been able to fully accept the reality of the situation. She's not being able to see that death is a fact of life that cannot be fixed, cannot be gotten rid of. So I think in our own practice of metta, we can really sort of, I suppose just bearing in mind, it's not just a good intention. It's not just a good intention. Good intentions are great, but if we really care, if we really want to help people, we need to actually really understand what do they need, what will actually help. Really getting to know people, befriending people, kind of giving that time to really get to know people. Most of us won't be able to just know what people need. We need to kind of befriend each other. And a word of caution, most of us would be really kidding ourselves if we think we could actually know what people really need like the Buddha did. So if somebody's coming to you and they're grieving, please don't tell them to go looking for mustard seeds, because that would just be awful. But yeah, metta has this dimension of kind of particularity and kind of seeing, kind of wanting to see the particular needs of the other. And and just to carry on the sort of mentioning friendship, because I think probably what most of us need most of the time really is a friend. We don't need somebody to kind of give us a lecture. We don't need somebody to sort of, in a sense, we even understand us. I mean, my friends are very patient with me. I'm a bit of a mystery to myself. My inner world is a bit confusing sometimes, but I find it really helpful to talk about, friends. They smile, they say, "Oh yeah, good." And they they look really sympathetic and sort of give me a hug. But I don't think they really know what I'm talking about a lot of the time. But I so appreciate it, just like feeling that care and that concern, and that people are willing to listen and willing to take me in. I'm so grateful for that, and I feel that's what really activates me. That can really help me kind of come alive and to sort of be inspired, to kind of just be happy. I really hope more and more I can give that to others. And this kind of seeing the particular needs of others, it takes us on to sort of the last dimension of Amitabha, or one of the last dimensions of Amitabha we're going to be exploring, which is that he transforms greed into the wisdom of particularity. So each of the 5 Buddhas is associated with transforming a particular mental poison, and Amitabha is said to transform greed, and he transforms it into actually a wisdom. It's usually called the discriminating wisdom, but perhaps a bit more clear is the wisdom of particularity. And we perhaps already have a sense of what this might mean. So he said that this dimension of wisdom, it sees the uniqueness of all phenomena, all living beings with a loving, appreciative awareness. It delights in the uniqueness of things. It delights in the kind of, the sunset at dawn, or the trees, glistening in the sunlight, or the kind of the rain on the kind of in the evening with the street lamps. It's like all the detail. This is delight in the kind of uniqueness and the beauty of things. And also, is able to discriminate and see how different we all are, and the different needs, the different desires we have, and to respond to that with metta, with love, to see what is it that we need and what is it that we delight in. Being really interested in the interests of other people. Like Mogavangsa has been very good at kind of encouraging me to do this, kind of getting interested in people. Like what do they like? What do they want to do? It's delightful when people do that to you, isn't it? So whereas greed discriminates between things in an attempt to possess and consume and to have and to make mine, Amitabha's wisdom of particularity, it pours forth love and compassion and appreciation with no desire to possess or to own or to have or control. So he transforms neurotic craving, which perhaps is a bit better than this word greed. So neurotic craving, might say, is this it's a form of desire where we're trying to find complete fulfillment in things that just cannot give it, that cannot satisfy us. And addiction is a really extreme example of this. Is this kind of this vicious circle of trying to find fulfillment, complete fulfillment, and it doesn't work, and we keep trying again and again, thinking this time, oh, I just need this will work, but it's this vicious circle of neurotic craving and suffering. And another perhaps less extreme example is a particular neurotic craving that can come through in romantic relationships. So, as promised, back to lust and sexual desire. So the neurotic aspect of this is believing someone can meet all of our needs and somehow kind of complete us, to sort of feel like another person could kind of make us whole and complete. And you may have experienced this. You might you may one day with a romantic partner feel they're perfect, they're heavenly. I could gaze at them all night. How wonderful! And then very soon, maybe minutes, maybe a day, or whatever. Really, it might suddenly change to kind of feeling kind of painfully obsessed, or noticing kind of ways they don't live up to expectations, or wishing they were this, wishing they were that. It can be very painful. And this is something I really had to work with. I mean, as soon as I basically kind of started feeling attracted to women at 11 or 12 or whenever it was, I was looking for the one, where are you? The one. And I feel that's good, this person that's going to complete me. and kind of lovely in a way, kind of innocent. But I've also seen there's been areas of that have kind of actually have needed to actually really, kind of brought about a lot of suffering and insecurity. Well, I think in this area we can really practice, and in any relationships with friendships even as well, we can practice this Amitabha's wisdom of particularity by encouraging all forms of gratitude, appreciation, concern, really trying to focus and feed those positive flames rather than what we can get out of it. Challenging, but possible. So really wishing for the other's happiness, delighting in their qualities, not trying to use other people to kind of fill an emotional hole within us, or an emotional emptiness. So yeah, imagine if we could give up this burden. So this is any form of neurotic craving. You can probably imagine in your mind any aspect where you keep, there's always like, if only this, if only that, if I could get this, if this would happen, if I could be like this, if only I was this, if only I wasn't that. Imagine if we could just put down this burden. Imagine if we could just lay that to rest. All the yearning, all the scheming, all the fearing, all the anxiety. If we could just put that to rest. Like the sunset, seeing the sun setting slowly, this kind of sense of peace and dusk, calming, softening, putting down the burden. But this putting down the burden of neurotic craving is not just a state of calm. So really important. So we're going to go back to red, okay? Here we go. Big finale, red. So red, again, is the colour of passion, desire, life energy. So Amitabha's wisdom, it relishes, it delights, it loves. His element is fire. So all the five Buddhas have different elements associated with them. Amitabha's is fire, because he's the Buddha of fire, red fire. That burns, is hot, is alive, is kind of wild, even. And I think Amitabha is there's something about this is communicating, passion and desire in their essence are good. It's more, they may take forms that can be a bit destructive, but in essence, desire is good. So do what you love, relish it, enjoy it. It's so easy in Buddhism or other religions to kind of poo-poo desire a bit and say, craving is bad, or like, oh, you just ate all those chocolates. That's not very Buddhist, is it? It's all like craving. So I'm just remembering, a few days ago, we had a pretty epic pudding. We had 4 different puddings. Anyway, so yeah, it's easy to do this. We think we need to make as if putting down neurotic craving. It's easy to think that this is somehow a cool, impartial, unemotional state. But the problem isn't desire, it's the kind of wrongly and unwisely directing desire in ways that cannot actually satisfy us. That's the real delusion. That's what brings us suffering. So sometimes we do need to be hardline. We do need to actually suppress very destructive and harmful habits when we can have the strength and courage to do that. But this is only part of the picture. Yeah, we can't live a life just suppressing desire. So the red of Amitabha, it's hot, it's full of life, full of passion even, but it's a passion for the flourishing of life, crucially. It's a sort of aliveness, a truly full aliveness. Warm, appreciative, loving awareness. It delights in beauty, delights in life, and wants to activate that and see that flourish in others, in ourselves, and in the world. So if you're struggling with putting down particular habits, and if you've tried, just trying not to do it, and that's not been working so well, maybe you could try taking a more positive approach. Maybe you could try focusing more on really feeding these positive, skillful forms of desire, love, the appreciation, metta, gratitude, friendship. Really feeding those, channeling our attention into those. It's so easy to get caught up and overly concerned with negative and thinking, I'm not this, I'm not good enough. Really see if you can reframe things, channel your energy to something really positive. Give yourself what you're really looking for. Don't just try and get rid of what you don't want. Give yourself what you're really looking for. Try and activate that. And, surely that's the way to live. Surely, enlightenment aside, thinking to live a fully rich and loving and beautiful life, that's the way I want to live. That's the way I aspire to live, at least. To make love more and more a kind of metta, a force in my life, to kind of even to surrender to that force. even to let it consume me. Yeah, consume me, enter into others' lives, and for Amitabha's infinite light, this infinite light, for that to actually be a reality, or to realize perhaps that it's been a reality all along. Thank you. So actually, I've got some homework. Homework's fun, isn't it? We like homework. So something you can try. So when doing the Metta Bhavana, you could even try that this evening, actually. So there's a kind of suggestion of a different approach you might like to take. So rather than thinking in terms of you trying to kind of generate metta yourself, or like pumping it up, or however you think about it, see what happens if you just try to really relax and open up and enjoy this sense of a kind of boundless, infinite light, metta, imagining that metta, love, is already there. If we can just relax and open up, and we can just let it come through. We just have to soften, open, relax into that. It's always available to us. We just need to learn to recognize it. So that's an invitation for you. And we're going to go into groups. You can talk about anything you like in the groups, but some questions you may want to think about is what do you think about this vision of life, of all humanity as being primarily growing beings, and that love is a kind of, or metta, ultimately seeks to activate that, to sort of relate to others' potential and to see them grow? And what do we even mean by growth? And secondly, how do you respond to imagining that the emotion of the Buddha is free of neurotic craving, but also hot and full of life, energy, even passion?